rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. It's Friday, folks. We've gone and made it through another work week here in the U.S. You know, we work, Monday through Friday. At least some of us do. There might be some out there that are retired, which is good. You guys have worked all of your lives, and just the fact that you're spending some of your quality time in your day right here with me on the American Perspective show, that just warms my heart more than you can know. And I just rhymed. How do you like that? I'm just a man with all kinds of talents, none of them good. Anyway, okay, so let's go ahead and get started here and get in on this. I believe that for tonight's pledge, I have Ms. T of Texas up for to say tonight's pledge. So, therefore, if you are of a mind, please stand, remove your hat, put your hand over your heart, and join with us and join Ms. T of Tex with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I thank you, Ms. T. He's also known as Tommy over on Facebook. Just a little hint there. Anyway, so I thank her for putting in that wonderful rendition. Do me a favor, if you would like to hear your rendition of the Pledge of Allegiance here on the American Perspective show, send it in to fans, that's FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. You can send everything over there. You can send me the Pet of the Week, which I have one. It just came in. Haven't had a chance to look at it, but just came in for next Wednesday. The Question of the Week, which happens on Saturdays. And that one, I do have one for tomorrow, but you can get yours in for the following week, the next week. And then, of course, all of your wonderful recordings, audio recordings of you saying the pledge in your own style. And I'll put it into the rotation. I've got about 5 or 6 of them now, which is good, and I want more. So please help me out. Send them to me. Record yourself saying the Pledge of Allegiance and send them on to me. So I have a question for at least for everybody, but I mean, obviously I'm only going to be able to see the answers either in the chat or in the comments section after the show. We've been doing this for 2 weeks now, folks. Daily shows, Monday through Friday at least, and then of course I've kept my Wednesday and Saturday shows the same for the time being. We'll continue that for another 2 weeks, but so far we're about halfway through with it. What are y'all's thoughts? What do you think about that? Do you want to stick with the format, with the 5-day-a-week format, or do you want to change back to just Wednesdays and Saturdays? What do you think? Give me your thoughts. Give me your opinions, your thoughts, your opinions. That would be absolutely awesome for that to happen. All right. Let's get on to tonight's sponsor, first sponsor, right here. And tonight's sponsor to start off is the flag shirt. Hey, I don't know if anybody's noticed. I know you guys can only see like just above, just the shoulders and that most of the time of the shirts. But I've been wearing theflagshirt.com's apparel, the cotton polos, for all of these shows that I've been putting on. They're comfortable. They're patriotic. In case you haven't seen, tonight I'm wearing one of the We the People shirts. And you ought to come by and check it out at theflagshirt.com. And while you are looking around and everything, open up another browser window and head on over to, as soon as I can get it up, over to flagshirt.americanperspective.online and pick yourself up a $5 off coupon code to enter in at checkout when you are buying all of your products from theflagshirt.com. There's menswear, women's wear, patriotic apparel, there's hats, there's socks, there's ties, there's even like sunglasses that are really cool for that. So yeah, head on over to theflagshirt.com and pick yourself something up today, and don't forget to stop at flagshirt.americanperspective.online to get yourself that $5 off coupon code to enter in at checkout so that you can get $5 off your order. And hey, if you bump that up to $75 or more, you can get free shipping from them too. And that is fantastic. So go to theflagshirt.com and pick up your patriotic shirts and get patriotized today. Okay. So, a couple of things came out really recently, and we're going to discuss a little bit of that tonight. And, so there we go. First of all, I just want to say that I'm actually kind of surprised, to be, really honest, as far as some of these protests are concerned. I don't know if you saw, but UCLA, sorry, the dog's barking because somebody's here, at the studio, but, the protesters at UCLA got just smacked down by the police, and they went ahead and picked up all of the, well, I won't say all of the protesters, but many of the protesters. I think it was something like over 100 got arrested, and they went ahead and, left a whole bunch of garbage. I talked about that last night, but it looks like the total count, at least according to this Breitbart article that you can see on the screen now, for those of you who listen to the audio portion of the program later, come and check it out at rumble.com. But anyway, on the Breitbart article here, the arrest record number is hit around 2,000 all across the United States, not at just one place, but all of these campuses. They picked up a lot. Now, supposedly, a lot of the arrests are not from people at the university. Like, they're not associated to the university. And they're not young people either. They're not young folks. So this isn't showing up, or at least partially is not being presented as a grassroots organization. We all know that it isn't a grassroots thing, because look at all the tents. The tents are exactly the same. Look at, they're being funded. In fact, I discussed this earlier in the week, I believe, about the people who are being paid agitators and that kind of thing. But now we're starting to see images of like older folks that are going down there. And by older folks, I mean people who really shouldn't be at the university, at least not as a student. They can probably be there as one of the administrators or the staff or something along those lines. But so far, they're there's some that are saying that the majority of these people being arrested are not actually tied to the school. Now, this article came out in Newsmax talking about New York University, NYU, that was basically talking about how less than half of the pro-Palestine protesters arrested at New York University last week after refusing to vacate the campus were members of the academic institution, according to the university. Now, I have seen some people denying that, who are saying that, NYU said that isn't the case. But still, it's kind of interesting to look at New York City Mayor Eric Adams, who was speaking on MSNBC's Morning Joe on Wednesday morning, and he revealed that outside agitators, including one whose husband was convicted for terrorism, played a key role in the anti-Israel protests at Columbia. And, of course, Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg, Twinkies, as Bongino likes to call him, said on Wednesday it was unclear how many of the 280 that were arrested at Columbia were actual outsiders. So in the NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism, Rebecca Weiner, however she pronounces it, said at a news conference on Wednesday alongside Adams that going through the names of those arrested to determine whether or not they are affiliated with the universities will take time. The key here is, folks, is that this isn't just a bunch of kids doing this. This is professional organizers that are in some cases, being paid. We've already talked about some of the groups that have been paid, okay? But the thing about it is that these are somewhat professional organizers who are being paid to incite all of this stuff. So it's not a grassroots thing. It's not, young people just getting out of, their classes and everything else in order to do this. This is something that is very much so a organized event across the country. Okay, so hang on just a second. I just got to let the cat out. Hold on. All right. So one other thing that has occurred in terms of the news is the U.S. economy jobs report came out for April. And, well, let's just say it's a little bit weaker than what was expected. So according to the report, the U.S. economy adds 175,000 jobs in April. But it was expected to have gained 243. Now, keep in mind, missing the mark isn't the story here. The mark is that the story here is that in a couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, it will be quietly revised downward. If it follows the rest of the trend, that is the Joe Biden administration, the jobs report will be revised downward to mean that we have actually even less jobs than what they are originally bringing out and claiming to. Now, of course, Joe Biden, or the account that is supposed to be Joe Biden's on X, that is more than likely the let me just say, more than likely a intern, because we all know Oatmeal Brains probably doesn't even know what X actually is. But they, of course, immediately started touting, hey, this is great. Now more than 15 million jobs have been created under Joe Biden, when you and I know, and I've pointed out on this show, and I've showed you the numbers, the 10 to 11 million of those jobs are actually ones that were brought back after the pandemic. Anyway, so yeah, this is just being a another shot across the bow for the Democrats, in the fact that even unemployment scooted up higher just a little bit, went to 3.9 instead of 3.8. And this is, of course, the 175,000 jobs for April is the worst month for job creation since October, according to this. And, wages even grew more subdued. These are all indications, folks. They are all indications, as I've pointed out a couple of episodes ago. These are all indications that we could be heading into stagflation. And that is reflected in consumer confidence. Consumer confidence falls a little bit. Now, this article came out on May 1st. I kind of held it a little bit because we had some other things going on. But the Confidence Board's Consumer Confidence Index, the CCI, fell from 103.1 to 97, even though March's index was revised downward also, and posting the third month in a row that the index has retreated. The Present Situation Index, which indicates business and labor market, fell from 146.8 to 142.9. So we're starting to shrink. Things are starting to shrink. More ominously, the Expectations Index fell from 74 to 66.4, well below the 80 threshold that the Confidence Board says often signals a forthcoming recession. So we could be looking at a potential recession. We are definitely looking at something like stagflation in this. Now, people are asking questions and trying to understand why and how all of this is coming about. I mean, other than the fact that Joe Biden is looking to spend, and now we've gotten into a bit of a spending spree with the government, and now things are starting to catch up, because even though, all of those wonderful months that they kept talking about are not really as wonderful as they portrayed, they also have been borrowing by doing all of this government spending with all of those wonderful Inflation Reduction Act and the Infrastructure Act or whatever it is, and all of these other things that they've been doing in order to increase the GDP and so on and so forth. All of these things are starting to come home to roost today. And so the economy indexes are starting to demonstrate and are not being bloated or increased because of government spending and government jobs and increasing all these government jobs and everything else. Well, you got to kind of wonder why. And part of the reason could be, and the fact that these people, Democrats, really have no clue whatsoever in terms of what the economy actually is, what our monetary system actually is. Now, thankfully, Sean Parnell, who is a great conservative podcaster. He sits in for Wendy Bell Radio. He did today, and he will again on Monday. I highly encourage you to go and check it out. If you haven't done so yet, you should check out Wendy Bell Radio, but you should also check out Sean's podcast that comes on Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern, goes from 5 to 6, and it's called Battleground Live. And here he showed what I think is actually the most apropos situation as to why we are in such a bad shape, not only for the economy, although this is what this guy is going to be talking about, but not only for the economy, but for the rest of the world and how we are dealing with the rest of the world. But you got to check this guy out. So here is Sean Parnell introducing the guy and then playing the video of the guy. You're just going to be floored with this. If you haven't heard this yet, your jaw is going to drop. I'm telling you right now.
But thankfully, Joe Biden has the best and the brightest on his staff, like White House economic advisor Jared Bernstein. Listen to him when he's asked about the government borrowing money. And again, keep in mind that this man advises Joe Biden in the White House on economic policy. Listen.
Like you said, they print dollars. So why does the government borrow?
Well, I mean, again, some of this stuff gets, some of the language that some of the language and concepts are just confusing. I mean, the government definitely prints money, and it definitely lends that money, which is why the government definitely prints money, and then it lends that money by selling bonds. Is that what they do? They sell bonds. Yeah, they sell bonds, right? Because they sell bonds and people buy the bonds and lend them the money. Yeah. So a lot of times, at least to my ear with MMT, the language and the concepts can be kind of unnecessarily confusing, but there is no question that the government prints money and then it uses that money to yeah, I guess I can't really talk. I don't get it. I don't know what they're talking about. Like, because it's like the government clearly prints money. It does it all the time, and it clearly borrows. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debt and deficit conversation. So I don't think there's anything confusing there.
He doesn't think there's anything confusing. This is a guy who is supposed to be advising Mr. Oatmeal Brains in office about our monetary policy. This is the guy that is supposed to understand. He's the chairperson of the council, the economic council that Joe Biden has put together. Folks, I can explain it better than he actually could being called out. It's very simple. The government prints money. That money, it puts into the economy. The value of whatever the monetary number on that dollar or that piece of cotton paper that is being circulated and that you are using to pay your bills, that value is based upon the full faith and credit of the United States. It used to be valued and based upon gold way back in the day. But here's the thing. That value of that dollar is dependent upon how many dollars are actually in circulation. That's what's called inflation. The more dollars you have, the more money that you have chasing too few goods, okay, means that you have inflation. Now, the government prints that money and uses it in order to fund the economy. But also what happens is the government issues what are called treasury bonds. This is where this guy was starting to struggle with. They issue treasury bonds to loaners, to borrowers, to people who come and borrow money, assuming that they're going to get a return on their investment. Not so unlike when you go to the bank and you borrow money from the bank charges you an interest rate. In this particular case, the government it's a bit of a reverse where the government says, hey, we'll pay you an interest rate of so much when you come back and claim that bond. Now, that money that's being brought in or given to the government is what the government is using right now in order to operate on a regular basis. Because government doesn't make anything, doesn't sell anything, doesn't do anything that causes it to have any sort of value. Now, our taxes get paid into the government. Those taxes are based off of the whatever different sources are derived for doing what the government does, which is supposed to be things like taking care of roads, taking care of bridges, protecting us. The things that are listed in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution are what the government, the federal government, is supposed to be doing. And this is why we as taxpayers pay the government for the benefit of the common good in doing all of those things. But the money that we pay in taxes, they don't go directly to those projects. They actually go back to those paying back those bonds and the interest on those bonds and the interest on those loans that we are taking out in order to run our government. This is what's known as deficit spending. We are borrowing from the future in order to pay for today. And this guy doesn't seem to quite understand the flow that, yes, we could go and we could print money all day long, but then we're going to end up in an inflationary cycle like what was it, Argentina had? Yeah, we can just print money. Sure, we can just print money, but that money is worthless if it doesn't have any solid backing. And it used to have the solid backing of precious metals. In particular, it was known as the gold standard. Now, folks, I am not an expert in money whatsoever. That is a very rudimentary understanding of how our government actually works based off of my understanding of civics and the way our government gets its money and how it's paid. It's a very, very, very broad stroke, top level, like I don't even get into all of the ins and outs of it. And I have more understanding and knowledge than the guy that is supposed to be the chief advisor of this council to oatmeal brains in the White House. What the hell is wrong with this picture? Oh my gosh. I can't even understand. It completely boggles my mind that we even have. And again, even when you talk to like Janet Yellen, who is the Treasury Secretary, she babbles and does gobbledygook. This is just mind-boggling. And to think that there is roughly 30 to 40% of this country that wants to vote this guy back in the White House, that actually thinks that he knows what he's doing. I am just completely floored by that. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break here, and I want to talk to you about TGRN. Where am I at here? Yeah, TGRN, True Grit Roots Network. You're right, buddy. Buddy Weiser just really quick says, newsflash, Democrats only spend money. That's true. They do. That's all they do. All right. I want to tell you about True Grit Roots Network. We have a channel called TGRN Blues. We are a digital radio station, and we pump out blues in this particular case. We're going to start adding some channels, hopefully in the very near future. But we currently right now are focused on our blues channel, TGRN Blues. And in the blues, we have all kinds of fantastic shows and on-air personalities that bring you an angle and a viewpoint and a perspective of the blues like no other station can do. In fact, as a part of that, one of the things that we do is we have a Monday through Friday show that kicks off at noon Central Time. It's called the Blue Plate Special, and it's hosted by different people every day of the week. You should come and listen to the Blue Plate Special Monday through Friday at noon Central, that to get a different flavor and a good overview, by the way, of our on-air personalities And then later on in the day, you can pick up Monday through Friday, you can pick up their original programming from those on-air personalities throughout the entire week. We also have encore presentations in case you miss one during the week, on the weekends, on Saturdays and Sundays for the most part. And you can check them all out at tgrn.net. You can listen right there through your browser, or if you want, you can go and take a look at the Live 365 app and search us up over the catalog of digital radio stations, as well as if you have the Audacity app, AUDACY, the Audacity app, you can go and check us out there as well. Come and check us out, tgrn.net, right outside of Austin, Texas. True Grit Roots Network, TGRN Blues. Come and listen to us today. All right. So a couple of things really quick in terms of the Trump trials. And in particular, oh, that's funny, Mark. Mark over at Facebook says, and I guess that's why they call it the blues. Time on my hands could be time spent with TGRN. That's fantastic. I got the best audience in the world. I'm sorry. Sean talks about having the best audience. Dan Bongino talks about having the best audience. No, sorry, guys. I have the best audience in the world. All right. So real quick on the Trump trials, we got a few things that came out here recently, and then we'll get to, of course, the headlining conversation. But records show, according to this Just the News article. Oh, whoops.
But thankfully, Joe Biden has the best.
I didn't mean for that to come on. All right. So according to this Just the News article, records show that the archives official, you remember how I was talking about the NARA, the National Archive, National Archives officials, and the fact that we, just to kind of catch you up, this was redacted. This was a redacted document that Judge Cannon went and unredacted, if you want to call it that. But they went ahead and unredacted the documents that came from the FBI, and apparently inside there was more information that was regards to the visitor logs showing that the National Archives officials actually visited the Biden administration officials throughout the earliest stages of the probe into President Trump. They actually met with the National Archives at least on 19 other occasions. And as you know, too, Julie Kelly has been chasing this thing down and doing a fantastic job at it. If you're on X and you're not following her with regards to this particular case, you're missing out. But anyway, she, they are now seeing that there is a potential that Donald Trump might have been set up, much like the whole Russia hoax that was in 2016. They essentially potentially could have set him up because, as I said on this program, the GAO had something like 6 pallets of documents that they told the Trump organization to come and pick up. And it was within those 6 pallets of documents that the actual classified documents were found. So there is a potential suggestion that those documents were planted in those boxes because, of course, they were stored by the GAO's warehouse. And you have now the records showing that the archives officials, just like Alvin Bragg, just like Letitia James, just like Jack Smith, all going to the White House and connecting up with Joe Biden and the Joe Biden team. So here in the article on June 8th, 2023, Gary Stern, the general counsel of the National Archives, arrived at the White House for a meeting with the special counsel to President Biden, Richard Sauber. The meeting reportedly took place in the Navy mess a nautical-themed dining room run by the Navy, of course. And according to White House records, it is not known what Stern and Stauber discussed, but the very same day, the Justice Department filed its indictment against former President Donald Trump, alleging that he unlawfully retained those classified documents. The record of the meeting obtained from the Biden White House visitor logs is the latest evidence showing a close cooperation between the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, and the Biden White House regarding the Trump classified documents case. Yeah. So once again, you're looking at a potential collusion. You know, they talk about Donald Trump and the quid pro quo and all of these other things, and yet every single time they seem to always run into the truth coming out a little bit later. Speaking of the truth coming out, today was the end of week 2 of the Trump trial. And there was a witness who came in, Hope Hicks. And Hope Hicks, as I told you before about the attorney, where the attorney was saying that none of Donald Trump's name wasn't on any of the documents that were part of the compensation of Stormy Daniels and I can't remember the other lady that was involved. But here, Hope Hicks, who was a one-time Trump administration official, told the Manhattan court on Friday that former President Donald Trump's ex-attorney Michael Cohen attempted to insert himself into the campaign and confirmed a defense lawyer's comment that he, quote, went rogue at certain moments. Under cross-examination by the prosecutor, Ms. Hicks, under cross-examination, I'm assuming by the defense, Ms. Hicks testified that Mr. Cohen, a central figure in the case, attempted to get involved in the campaign, but wasn't supposed to be on the campaign in any official capacity, and wasn't involved in the campaign strategy. Mr. Cohen liked to call himself a fixer or Mr. Fix-It, Ms. Hicks said. And it was only because he first broke it that he was able to then fix it, she said after being questioned by Trump attorney Emil Bove. When asked about whether Mr. Cohen went rogue, Ms. Hicks confirmed that he did, taking several actions that the Trump campaign did not authorize. Holy crap. So here's the thing. The majority of the Bragg case is centered around the fact that Trump and the Trump campaign paid off Stormy Daniels in particular, and that should be a federal finance violation, and it should have been claimed as a part of the campaign money and the election money, and the FEC looked at this already, like I've told you, and has basically said, yeah, this is not a big deal for us. And even the DOJ, the Biden DOJ, said, yep, there's nothing here, but yet Bragg is trying to wrap this up and turn this into something felonious at the state level. Well, here again is another witness that has essentially shot another hole into this narrative that's being sent. At one point during the questioning, going back to the Epoch Times piece here, at one point during the questioning from a Trump defense attorney about when she started working for the Trump Organization, Ms. Hicks broke down in tears. The judge called a short break before she resumed her testimony. Ms. Hicks had worked for then Republican 2016 presidential candidate's campaign before becoming former President Trump's aide. She was called to testify on Friday as a part of the so-called hush money trial involving the former president. Prosecutors have claimed that the former president sought to provide the payments to adult film performer Stormy Daniels and former model Karen McDougal. Thank you, by the way, to Outlaw Dogs for pulling that up as well, to prevent the two from going public about alleged affairs, and in a bid to boost his 2016 campaign. Now, during her testimony, during Ms. Hicks' testimony, she did not disclose during whether Mr. Cohen went rogue, whether or not that was actually one of the rogue actions when he made the payments to Ms. Daniels. Now, Trump is facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal a payment. But here's the thing. None of the documents that any of the witnesses have seen or have testified to so far actually had Donald Trump's name on them. Now, there is some tangential connection where somebody is saying that Donald Trump used a pseudonym, which apparently is common. I wouldn't know because I've never had to do this, but used a pseudonym name, and that pseudonym name matched up to somebody on the official unredacted or disclosure document. But that name had a blank next to it. So they actually didn't see Donald Trump's name connected to this other name. And so realistically, this entire case is starting to fall apart, much like Jack Smith's case is, much like Fani Willis's is, much like even E. Jean Carroll's has been shown to be a complete joke. And in fact, it's even getting so bad that CNN, here in the Daily Fetched, a CNN panel stuns CNN viewers. They actually shredded Alvin Bragg's case against Trump. Let's take a listen.
And I think on that point, I've seen precious little evidence presented yet that Trump wasn't floating above. I mean, I've seen very little evidence of Trump's direct involvement in getting this accomplished. So, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. A lot of that's going to come from Michael Cohen, but also there was a few tidbits in David Pecker's testimony, right, that there were direct communications. But it's a great point, David. There hasn't not been much evidence yet directly of Donald Trump's involvement and knowledge.
Well, and I think on that.
So again, now CNN is actually, basically saying, oh my gosh, this isn't, they're really, so far, the prosecution apparently has not presented anything as far as this goes toward this end. And so we know that the case is crap, and they are just trying by mentioning Michael Cohen, just so everybody understands, Michael Cohen is already disgraced as being a liar. So who the heck knows what he's going to say on the stand. He had already told the press that he'd been talked to about possibly being a witness for the defense and testifying at this trial from his jail cell, wherever he was at the time. But here's the thing, though, is there isn't much evidence here. And even if there was, this is still a novel case, a novel application of the law, which in most of these cases so far that have been being brought are exactly that. They're novel. They've never been done before. They've never been applied in this way. Same thing with the January 6ers and the Sarbanes-Oxley obstruction charges that were thrown against the January 6ers that went all the way up to the Supreme Court. You also have the fact of that there's no victims, because Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal said, hey, this was actually used, believe it or not, to try and increase our exposure. They did it because they wanted to get their careers supposedly back on track. And of course, there is some indication that Donald Trump basically just paid it because, well, when you get to be a certain point, certain level of popularity, sometimes just paying money is a lot easier and more expedient than it is to fight these things in court. And so, again, we're dealing with a very, very thin case, no different than the entire thing up where Judge Engoron did what he did. And it's a very thin case up there as well. I haven't heard anything about that case, realistically, probably because it isn't even on the docket yet. But that one, in terms of the appeal, but that one is another one that was extremely thin as well. These are all things just to get Trump. Well, it's not like the Biden administration and the Democrats in particular are, so squeaky clean that they can avoid prosecution and everything else. A top Biden official that's in town hall, a top Biden official was busted for lying about a past arrest. So here's the deal. She is the Deputy Assistant Attorney General, I think, or well, I saw one saying she was the deputy. This article is saying Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark was, let's see, where was she? She was, she was asked specifically about whether she had had any prior arrests since becoming an adult, and that's the key, since becoming an adult. And she replied no during her confirmation hearing in 2021. Well, according to the Daily Signal found some new documents that showed that Clark was indeed arrested in 2006 in a domestic violence dispute. She had stabbed her then husband at the time, and she lied about it during her confirmation hearing. Here's from the Daily Signal. Before becoming one of the Justice Department's top leaders, Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark was allegedly involved in a violent domestic dispute, according to court documents, records, and text messages, an incident that ended in her arrest and was ultimately expunged. During her Senate confirmation, Clark specifically denied ever having been arrested or accused of committing a violent crime. Clark was nominated by President-elect Joe Biden on January 7th of 2021 and later confirmed by the U.S. Senate on May 25th, 2021, to lead the DOJ's crown jewel, as former Attorney General Eric Holder Jr. described the Civil Rights Division. And of course, they celebrate, Biden and Kamala Harris celebrated as Clark became the first black woman to head the Civil Rights Division, promising that she would focus on fighting voter suppression and hate crimes across the country. During her confirmation, Senator Cotton, who is a Republican from Arkansas, asked then nominee Clark, "Since becoming a legal adult, have you ever been arrested for or accused of committing a violent crime against any person?" "No," she responded, according to the responses she submitted under oath to questions for the record from U.S. senators. Yeah. So, yep. That's kind of interesting. Well, here's one, and this is the headline piece for tonight. Henry Cuellar, Cuellar, this from the Washington Examiner, has been indicted. Apparently, the DOJ has decided to charge this Texas House Democrat with taking bribes. So now, all of a sudden, the DOJ knows what bribe taking is, even though they're completely ignoring Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and all of that money flowing back and forth, FARA violations, all of those other things that the FBI was warned about but never took any action on. Well, apparently, This representative was indicted in Texas on Friday for allegedly accepting nearly $600,000 in bribes from 2 foreign entities, the government of Azerbaijan and a Mexican bank. Kuehler, a congressman for nearly 2 decades, and his wife were charged by the Department of Justice for several bribery, conspiracy, and money laundering charges. Sounds to me like that might be or could be applied to Joe Biden. And definitely, hey, by the way, it could be applied to Bob Menendez too. Anyway, the husband and wife pair, received bribe payments through sham consulting contracts owned by the wife, who performed little to no legitimate work under the contracts, according to the DOJ. Wow, I am seeing so many similarities here, folks. Similarities that the left keeps saying, oh no, Joe Biden and the Biden family, they never did this. But this is all what the House Oversight Committee has been pulling out of all of the bank records and text messages and all of these other things that are showing up because due to the, non-existent or existent today Hunter Biden laptop, all of that stuff. The bribe money apparently came from an Azerbaijani oil and gas company and a bank in Mexico City. In exchange for the payments, Kuehler allegedly agreed to use his political influence to affect foreign policy and legislative changes in favor of the entities, the DOJ said. Wow, you could just about replace the Kuehler name with Biden's name. Kuehler's and his wife's charges include conspiracy to commit bribery, bribery of a federal official, conspiracy to commit honest services fraud, violating a ban on public officials acting as foreign agents. Hello, FARA Act. Hello, DOJ. Hello. Anyone home? Oh my God, they could just, you know what the Washington Examiner could do, honestly, is they could, once Biden actually gets in front of the DOJ, hopefully when Trump gets into the office in November, that he will go after the Biden family for all of this. But they should just hang on to this, exactly how this is written, and recycle it for the Biden family, because it's almost spelling out specifically what the Bidens did. Just change the names of Azerbaijani and the Mexico City Bank and put in Ukraine and Romania and China. Oh my gosh. Oh, so Kuehler, of course, declared that he and his wife were innocent hours ahead. But these charges that are being put in here carry a maximum sentence of more than 200 years in prison for both of them. Yeah. Now that's assuming, of course, that the sentencing would actually, result in maximum penalties. But yeah, it just, I just can't believe this, that the DOJ is going after somebody like this, and they are completely ignoring the White House, the criminal, conspiracy, FARA Act violating, classified documents stealing, bribery taking. I don't even know all the things. The guy, the oatmeal brains in the White House and his family. I just can't believe it. Oh my gosh, this is just killing me. How can the DOJ do this with a straight face? Oh, and of course they'll probably say, if asked about it, they would probably be like, well, yeah, we're bipartisan. We did this in a bipartisan fashion. God. Oh, geez. It's you can't write comedy as good as this. You really can't. All right. Enough on that. Well, other than the fact that I'm laughing, that was just too good. Other than that, I want to tell you a little bit just in the last few minutes that we have here. You remember back when the state or that the government went and changed the definition of who was a federal firearms dealer, and it like expanded into the point where just about based on the reading of that it would expand into private sales and private people. If somebody wanted to go and sell their weapon, they would have to become an FFL in order to be able to sell it. Well, those rules changes, according to this Breitbart article, those rule changes are now being sued or being challenged in court. So Gun Owners of America and the state of Texas combined, they file a suit against the ATF for that rule change, the universal background check rule. Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners Foundation, joined Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton in suing Biden's ATF over the new rule requiring background checks on private gun sales. Breitbart News reported the ATF's announcement on the proposed rule on August 31st of 2023. The rule redefines what it means to be engaged in the business of selling guns, thereby expanding the instances in which an unlicensed seller, i.e. a private citizen, must use the NICS to sell or transfer a gun. The rule largely centers on guns being sold for profit. However, page 26 and 27 as a part of the rule change, it equates pecuniary gain with profit, which opens the door for the ATF to redefine the word sale so as to require an NICS check when a private seller is bartering over a gun. Page 194 of the 466-page rule makes it clear that people who smuggle guns out of the country in order to sell them abroad also under the dealer category following the ATF's redefinitions. And so now the GOA, the GOF, and the state of Texas have filed suit, arguing that the rule will result in hundreds of thousands of law-abiding gun owners to presumptions of criminal guilt for all manner of activities relating to the innocuous, statutorily authorized, and constitutionally protected private sale of firearms. The ATF used the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a piece of gun control fashioned and brokered by Senator Corman, to justify its background check rule. So anyway, we're gonna be watching this one for sure, because once again, this is another overreach of government in the Second Amendment, and yeah. So there we go. So this is coming down the pike as well. I fully expect that this will probably go all the way to the Supreme Court too. So we'll be paying attention to that as well. All right. That's all I've got for tonight. Do me a favor, if you enjoy the program, please head on over to rumble.com, find the American Perspective channel and follow it. That would be awesome. If you're already over there on Rumble, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. It's also known as the like button in YouTube land, because that's one of the key indicators that Rumble uses in order to rank videos such as this. We will see you tomorrow night. Now, it's 1 hour later tomorrow night, so it starts at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. I thank you very much, all of you, for joining me tonight. And we will see you tomorrow night for the last week, episode of the week. Have a great rest of your evening. Good night, everybody.
The previous broadcast was produced and is owned by Active Eye Media LLC. All rights reserved.